Hey y'all, my name is Z Infante. I'm the Director of Youth Outreach for the Future Perfect Project. And we're here for our FPP Monday night Insta Live Instagram stories. Hey BT Whitey. Hey Zach. Just waiting for everyone to come on board. Oh, Zach is here. Our amazing actor, extraordinary. I'm really excited to hear today. Hey Mountaineer Bean, nice to see you. Hey Luke.
Howdy, howdy.
Oh, Zach is on their way. Oh, there you are, dude. How are you doing, beautiful?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm having a nice night. I'm happy I get to see you again.
You as well.
Again,
You as well.
still through the virtual. We have yet to see each other in person,
I
but the
know.
day will come.
And we're across the
You
country.
look fabulous. Your
Thank
hair
you.
is beautiful right
Thank you.
now. You're welcome. So I just want to give our viewers a little outlay of the land. So the Future Perfect Project is a grant-based organization through the Wind Rider Foundation, and we believe that the self-expression of LGBTQ plus teens and allies is a declaration of a better future for us all. So we have these Monday night FPP Live interview series with amazing artists, queer artists who are the top of their field. And tonight we have the amazing and wonderful Zach Bag. Hey Melissa, hi Alexis. So just a heads up, Zach, I'm gonna be saying hello. We'll answer some questions that are pop up in the chat, and just have a conversation. I have some questions, like I've shared with you, and we'll just go from there. I'll start by doing our usual introduction that we
Okay.
do in all of our workshops. We provide free online Zoom workshops that are available if you sign up through our link on our profile. You can get on our mailing list and get all the information about all of our wonderful workshops. And so, again, you can find that on our Instagram. And our introduction, the way that we do our introduction, our workshops, is I say my name, my pronouns, how I'm feeling, and where I am. So, for instance, my name is Z, and they are feeling grateful in Roselle Park, New Jersey. How about you?
I'm Zach, and he is feeling chilly in Los Angeles.
Ooh, it's chilly
It's
in
a little
LA.
chilly in
Okay.
LA, which I
It's that
my
time.
Chicago family would be rolling their eyes at, but
Ha
I'm sure you're rolling
ha.
your eyes at as well.
A little bit, a little bit. It's actually really nice right now. So again, why I'm grateful. It's pretty nice out, but I'll take it while
Good.
it lasts, kind of a thing.
Fair enough. Yeah,
So I
yeah.
just want to dive right in and get to know you a little better. So you are from Chicago, Evanston, correct?
I'm actually from Glenview. It's a little north of Evanston, but yeah, same area.
Okay. Oh, the real Grace and Goss says Zach. They're grateful to see you, I can tell. So you're from right outside of Evanston in a little, is it a burb? Are you from the
It's a
burbs?
village, which I find fun. I think that's a fun fact. I lived in a village. Um,
Oh,
yeah,
I love.
it sounds, when I describe it, it sounds so small towny because there was a farm down the street from me and it's a village, but it felt very just like standard suburban, a little boring. Very white bread, Irish Catholic town. I think I could probably count on two hands the Jewish people I knew, outside of myself, and we were surrounded by all these Jewish towns, and it was just a weird choice for my parents. But I was, I think as a queer person, no matter where you end up, it's like toss of the dice how it's gonna come out.
I grew up in a borough, so I feel you on the small town vibes.
Yeah,
So just right on that, like being queer, being Jewish. You recently wrote on Instagram about this wonderful show that you're a part of on Netflix called Dead India. Oh, look at that smile. You're beaming.
uh,
I'm so excited. Can you tell us a little bit about that project?
yeah. It's the coolest thing I've ever gotten to do. It's well, first of all, I mean, you and I worked on voiceover together, and it's been something I'm sort of new to, and I guess I just didn't realize how much I was gonna love it until I was doing it. But especially the scripts. Like I get the scripts, before work, and I read them and I cry a lot. they're it's gonna I just have never seen a kid show that talks about transness. Um, And like specifically to see such a paralleled experience in that, it's not explicitly always something as, the way that trans people experience difficulties doesn't always look as horrible as it can, sometimes it's really mundane and not sensationalized and not, someone calling me a slur, but it's just, family not getting it. And I think that the show does a good job of capturing the extremes in a way that are easy to digest and aren't horrifying and traumatic. We get to capture how hard it is to be a trans person, and still really enjoy the characters and enjoy the story. And so I like it because it's not it's not traumatizing and horrible. It's actually a really wonderful and beautiful story about identity told through demons and monsters and theme parks, and that's like a bunch of my favorite stuff. So I love all that stuff. So for me, it's been like really amazing to get to read a script like that. I never get to read scripts like that. I don't know if that's been your experience, but like as a trans person, I'm so used to getting a script about someone really angsty, and going through it, often a vagrant. And it's not to say that we don't touch on things like that, but it's so nice to not feel like that's the box I'm stuck in with this character. So I'm personally like elated to be part of this project, and yeah, I don't know. I'm really looking forward to people getting to see it.
I'm so excited as well. My friend Alex, I know, is your dog,
Yes,
Alex Brightman,
yes.
which is so cool because you guys are just such amazing talents and amazing people. So when I found out about that union, I was just so excited. Which brings me to ask more about relationships. So in Dead what kind of do you feel like there are queer relationships that are happening in terms of your character, or just and queerness not necessarily just being about identity and what's the word I'm looking for, and presentation, but also in terms of just being outside of the norm. What are those relationships like that you're exploring in the show?
Yeah, I think that oh, it's cool. It is actually I've done this is my second live, and it's neat to see where people are from. Someone from the Netherlands. Um, sorry.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, you know, I I think that, and this is one of the reasons that I'm really excited to be part of the project, is I like that it does a good job of exploring that it's so hard and almost unavoidable to have any like non-queer relationships when you inhabit a certain queer space. Like if you're trans, then like your relationship with your family is as a trans person often. And I think it does I think it does a truly good job of explaining how it changes the dynamics there, and people's expectations of us versus our expectations of ourselves, and what it looks like. As a kid, I mean, I loved television, and I think one of the plus sides of that for me is, honestly, I think the like the theatrics and all of the amazing things that come with TV really like energized me, made me want to do art, and made me want to do all these things. But I think the one thing that I sometimes struggled out of my head is what linear narratives look like, and I oftentimes think, well, surely a positive relationship or a relationship or like a story, in order for it to look good, will go from down here to up there. You know what I mean? Like it's a linear upward path, and that's how life should go. It should be, it should move in a positive direction, and otherwise I'm doing something wrong, or like, and there's only you only get one second chance. All those stupid tropes in my brain. And I like that this show, I think we talk a lot about the fact that like relationships aren't part of a linear narrative, and you're always learning how to be more supportive of the people in your life, and you're always learning that even when you're going through something, quite frankly, there are people in your life that are also going through it. And I like that, and that feels very inherently queer, kind of. To me, I think learning how to share space with other people who are struggling is a very queer thing to learn to do, because I think growing up in a family, I have three older brothers, and they're really incredible. I'm very, very blessed to have very good relationships with my family, and they're really supportive. And I think I'm so used to being, the trans one in the family, in my brain. Not that anybody makes me feel othered, but, in my brain, that when I'm spending time with other queer people and other people who are, marginalized in any capacity, it's important to remember what it looks like to lead with privilege, as well as like lead with, we're all going through. I mean, it just, you're so aware of it when you're queer. You're so aware that everybody could be going through it because you're queer, and like you probably are, So it's like I think that that's really unique to the show in some ways too, because I think that it explores what it's like to have friends that are going through it, and to like learn how to step up anyway. And again,
Hmm.
I think that one of the genre fiction about sci-fi, about horror, and that I love so much about genre fiction is, and like superhero stuff as well, is that like I love metaphors, I love symbolism, and I think there's so much space for that in the show in terms of relationships. And actually, Alex's character is the dog. Funnily enough, is one of my. It was so fun to watch family be played out through like this like interesting dynamic between a kid and his dog. You know what I mean? There's something so true
Oh
about
yeah.
like the real like the simplicity um, and sort of like bareness, or like I don't know how to, but when you strip it away, like there's something really primal about being close with your pet because there's like no conversation there. And that feels really unique and interesting to explore as well. So I don't know, and I think it does a good job of showing what unconditional love is about and such.
Mm.
So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Zaria just said that they love that idea about relationships, and then this interesting name popped up, Deborah Barrick.
Oh, that's my
Um,
sister-in-law. Yeah.
oh wow. Well, she's wondering if being an uncle has helped at all.
Yes, yeah. I am newly an uncle. Really, really, really. It's our first unclehood, me and my brothers, and my brother's first kid, and my parents' first time being grandparents. So uh, it's been really exciting, and that's another really cool thing I think is like how blessed I am to be able to engage in this time, not to be corny, but frankly, like Zoom has kept me alive. Playing Catan with my brothers on Zoom and my sister-in-law and my brother's girlfriend, like that has like kept me alive. It's kept me sane, like, and I think connection, and I think, when you're queer, you have so many fears growing up. I don't know, I'll speak for myself. I had so many fears growing up that I was gonna have a role. You know what I mean? Because in my mind, aunt didn't make sense, and when you don't know what, like, when you don't have the picture of what a future can look like, it's so hard to place yourself in a role. And so now having that is like it's been a cool blessing. This is so fun. I love seeing how people join. That's neat. I feel like an
Isn't
old
that
person, but like
awesome?
just like yeah.
On the Instagram, yeah. And for anyone who's watching, we provide free workshops to have more conversations like this with other queer teens who are just as engaged as Zach is in this amazing discourse that we're having about being queer and being a queer artist. And again, you can sign up on our Instagram in our bio. You can sign up for our programs and get a part of the community, so you can meet other awesome people like Zach. Um, with that said, I'm wondering if you could talk to me, just like you brought up around superheroes, and we've talked about this around Superman, Spider-Man. Oh my God, about Spider-Man. What does it mean for you in terms of representation? Right now that you've done what you've done with Marvel, and now you're doing this in voiceover. What's that like for you in terms of representation?
Yeah, it's been really cool. It feels really funny because it's all happened quickly. Getting to do more than one project was always something that I was worried wouldn't happen. I think you see a lot in queer Hollywood. You see like a couple figures, and in my development as a young person and as a queer person and also as an artist, like getting to see other queer people has been monumental. Like I frankly wonder how long it might have taken me to come out without that on television at the time it came out, because I was in high school when Laverne Cox debuted on Orange is the New Black, and for me that was like I was like, no way, that's crazy. People talk about that openly. Okay, game changer, And so when I got realized I was super interested in acting and performing, and started going out for auditions, which I didn't have representation when I first started, and I was just kind of looking at breakdowns or like provoking people I knew that knew about auditions that were friends and managers and just anybody, and um, getting to explore. that kind of art and know that like it was meaningful to me as a young person, as I am a young person, but like, as a teen and like a person who felt really isolated um, in my transness. I went to an all girls high school, so it was an interesting experience coming out because I felt really burdensome. I felt really burdensome. I felt like I was like creating an issue. I felt like I was I was like, why can't I just be easy? You know what I mean? And I don't think that the strength to just like power through it and be out would have been there if I hadn't had some example of what that looked like. And so it feels surreal to be part of it. It truly does. Like I sometimes I don't feel like I'm well equipped. Sometimes I'm worried, like can I stand up to the task? Because the people that I see in media and representation are these incredibly well um, people, and I recognize that some of that comes from when you're trans or when you're queer, you have to spend your whole life explaining so much that I think you get really good at it. And I just watched Disclosure, so I do have some of it fresh in my mind. But like seeing some of the
Mhm.
trials and tribulations of trans people in the industry, in particular, I mean, just horrifying depictions. Like, it really does feel surreal, and I'm really excited. My roommate and I talk about it a lot. We're creative partners, and we talk about it a lot. Like that sometimes I get this anxiety that like roles won't exist, won't continue to exist for trans people, or that like they'll never evolve, and they always say, well then we'll make them, and it gets it gets me so hyped. I'm like, yeah, we will, like, and I think we are. Like, I think that the reason things are changing is because people are not allowing them not to, and so I'm just grateful to be included in that, even remotely. I'm
Mhm.
grateful to have opportunities.
And as someone who's taken advantage of those opportunities and is creating those opportunities for other trans people, for other artists, what if you were in high school today? What do you think you'd be writing? If you could go back in time and like start writing those roles, what do you think your high school self would be writing today?
Well, I actually think it's a fun story. I think about my high school experience, and it's actually not that unique. So when I was in high school, as I said, I went to an all-girls high school, and I was coming out as a trans masculine person, and I started seeing these articles popping up about like trans masculine people at Wellesley, or historically all women's colleges or whatever. And I was like, oh my God, this is a thing. Because clearly, if you're in a space, not clearly, but I think when you're in a space of people that you feel safe enough with, of course there's going to be more people who are feeling like they can come out. And that's what, I mean, because that was my experience, was that I didn't identify as a woman. I was in a space that felt, I was at a pretty liberal school, um, and it was people that shared an external experience with me, and so I felt safe to come out, and I started seeing that more people were like that, and I would love to tell that story one day. I think it's a really interesting dynamic to explore, is navigating, you know, spaces that are designated as like safe for a certain group, and what it looks like to expand, because frankly, they're not expansive enough. You know what I mean? Like there are so many women's colleges and women's, schools that don't accept trans women, or are very limited in their understanding of what non-binary means, and how they, and the admissions process, and existing students who want to come out. And I think, God, what a good way to do exposition on how that could be improved upon. Tell those stories, and that's just one of many. One that my roommate and I again just like try to think about exploring. But and other ones, like I had a really bizarre high school experience because I transferred. My family was moving around, and when my parents split up and stuff, I actually went to public school my whole life, and then I transferred to boarding school because we were all moving around when I was in high school. And the in between the two high schools, I went to this like wilderness program for delinquents. I was it was a little bit like I needed some guidance, and it wasn't just for delinquent. I'm oversimplifying a bit, but I had the fortune of having parents that were worried about me, and so I did this wilderness program, and I think that's a pretty rich vein as well. I guess more or less the theme, or the general theme is, something therapeutic about coming out, something therapeutic about families changing, something therapeutic about navigating spaces that should be safe for a wider group. That's the kind of thing I want to write, and the kind of thing I wish that thought to create, and now I get to, and now I know what a script looks like. I'd never seen a real life screenplay until I was in my 20s, out here in LA, and it was just by fortune I stumbled into it. You know what I mean? I talked to the right person at the right time. I didn't know anything about the industry. I just got very, very, very lucky, and so I think getting that exposure, getting to learn about it has been really amazing. And I got to, and I have lots of friends now that are in the creative mind, and especially queer people. And yeah, so I don't know, it's expanding, but I think the general theme is I want to create things that talk about navigating family dynamics that shift, and to be frank, honestly, being part of Dead Endia, being part of an animated show that does it so well has really expanded what I want to create as well, because now animation feels like something I want to write. You know what I mean? And as well as podcasts, the podcast we did was so much. I had like a truly a blast working on it. And when I found out that you were going to be on it, I was elated because I think there aren't projects that have more than one trans person on them usually, and it was like really, really. I remember being so excited when I read the script. I was like, oh my god, this is great. Okay, cool. Like, I'm on board. I trust the people who are writing this. Like, it was just so much more elevated than I could have anticipated. Not because I didn't have faith in the product, but just because it's so rare to see queerness compounded on. You know what I mean? Like, it's always pretty narrow, and it was cool, and so I want to see more of that as well. You know what I mean? So it's given me doing voiceover and doing different projects and getting to watch friends do different projects too, other queer and trans people, has expanded what I want to write as well. I'm going to turn my light up just a spec, but I'm here.
Oh, go for it. Go for it. Get comfy. Emmy, hi. Emmy says hi. Emmy Ab, nice to see you. Just really excited to hear you talk more about your ambition and the kind of roles you want to create, and also hearing about your experience in high school, right? That we all have that common experience as queer people where it's that at least for me, I can identify with the story of what you were saying about feeling like a burden or feeling like just my identity was somehow difficult for other people. I'm wondering if there was something in high school that you just bumped up against, that you were like, oh my God, this has got to go. This has to change. And whether there was, there's something that you did about it then, or there's something you're doing about it now in response to what you saw happening in those high school days.
Yeah, well, hopefully, as I said, I'm hoping that there can be some. I mean, the truth is that my ideals have changed a spec, which is that I think when I was in high school, I saw that there were these spaces being created that were meant to be safe, right? Like these all girls schools, all women's colleges, and I had this thought of oh, it's cool that they're trying to create spaces for women, because not every space that is not every general space feels safe for women, right? But that needs to be it needs to be much more expansive than what it looks like, because I think what that looks like is cis women, and often, if not almost exclusively, people with access to money, people with access to family with privilege, or in proximity to whiteness. And I think now my priorities have shifted to, instead of wanting those places to be expansive, I just want equal opportunity access to education that looks like that everywhere. I think private school, I think they should be the past at this point. I mean, I think that's something that I came up against in high school, was seeing how limited spaces that were meant to be safe were, and now I'm just seeing that all spaces are pretty limited, and it's hard to narrow the focus, but I would love to see spaces be generally more inclusive and more protections in place for kids that are most at risk. And frankly, I think it's a lot more simple than, I think it's a long process. I can't purport to know everything about it, but I know that it's something as simple as getting better, care for queer kids in schools would be a pretty easy process. I mean, there's so many organizations across the country. I worked at a nonprofit in DC called Smile, and we did sex education and queer GSA workshops, and I don't think every school. I certainly know that my middle and high school in Glenview, where I grew up, was not, to my knowledge, was not involved in looking for any groups like that. But, in DC, it was really cool to be part of that, and I wish that, in in some places where it might feel even lonelier to be queer, those things were more accessible. Something as simple as that. As much as I want to say like overhaul the whole system, which, maybe that's how I feel, I know that, it would at least be nice for us to start by including queer kids in their education more, and there's a way to invite them in, and that's having other queer people around. And, having my first openly queer teacher really was my junior year of high school. I had an English teacher who I like, it has a very near and dear to my heart. She taught me how to, she helped me learn about bow ties, and she used to come to class like wearing like a tie, like an amazing suit every day. And I just remember being like, God, everything feels like, you know what I mean? And I do think there are little ways in which my life was expanded, really simple to include in other schools and other kids' experiences. So, I mean, that's what I cross my fingers hoping for.
Yeah, I hope so for Emmy out in Chile. Hey, how you doing, boo? Um, I think it's also really important to remember sort of what you're acknowledging um, around that experience in high school and uh, looking for that community. And as you spoke about the other organization that you work with, like the Future Perfect Project is really striving to create that kind of community. So for those of you who are watching, please sign up for our programming. It's available through our link. We would love to have you join us and be a part of that community that is loving and accepting and celebrates and amplifies your voice. I'm so excited that we have Zach here to talk about amplifying queer voices. You've already sort of taken ahead of what I was
I know,
thinking
so
of
sorry.
chatting with you about.
I was like,
No, you're
as I
like
was rambling, I was
on
like,
it, boo. No, you're on it. Oh, I'm so close to the screen. There's just one question I wanted to ask you. So you said in an article, there were moments throughout my whole life where I thought I'd have to be a kid, where I thought I have to be a kid. But there's the other side of myself that everyone else doesn't know about. Do I share it with them or not? I'm wondering if you're still asking yourself that question, and I'm wondering if you can talk to us and to other queer teens who are wondering whether they can share their identity with others. If you have any tips or you have any suggestions, how other queer teens can talk to their loved ones or to people, at the cookie store about being queer.
yeah. So, yeah, this is one of those tough questions where it's like I wish I could give some blanket advice. What I will say is it it's because there's so much safety concern around it that as much as I want to say authentically be yourself, and I do feel that way, I think it's important to assess the situation. And I think that for me, I started with the safest person, which was, in my case, was close friends at school, and saw how that was and built and figured out that I would have a plan. I didn't doubt that my parents would love me unconditionally, but I wasn't sure what the reaction would be. I didn't know what my community would look, and know what my extended family would look like. My grandpa proved to be actually quite a champion for me, and was actually very cool. He never, if he struggled with it, he never made it my problem, and he never screwed up my name or pronouns or anything. And he was in his 90s when he passed away, well into them, and was in his 90s when I came out. So, testament to age is not, not an excuse. But, the other thing I'll say is before I came out to him and everybody, it was good to test the waters. And I know not everybody has that, but I do think the internet is a really powerful place for looking to make sure you have some sort of fallback plan, or looking to make sure you have community, or at least coming out. And if you feel as though it's not safe to do it online. I mean, find a safe way and space online to do it, because peace is at least I mean, letting the dam build up of holding yourself in for long enough will just inevitably be painful. And it's unfair that the burden has to be held by young people. I was like, not that long ago, but like I can't fathom still being doing. I sometimes have these like nightmares about like if I had never realized that I could come out as trans, and so I empathize a lot with feeling stuck. I guess my advice is to find spaces to practice. You know what I mean? Because I think in the same way that is true for anything. I think, practice makes perfect sort of situation is you can't count on the other 50, it's the 50% you bring, the 50% the other people bring, whatever. You can't count on other people necessarily to accept you. And I'm not saying that to be a nihilist. I just mean from the perspective, I want young people to be safe, and I see the way trans people are treated, and I don't want them to be endangered. So I am always mindful of that when I talk to young trans people. I don't want to just be like, come out, you'll be fine. I want to be mindful of that. That being said, there are spaces to do it. Find, online, and I know, Tumblr isn't what it used to be, but, I do think Twitter, I think communities are evolving online. I think they're finding new homes. For me, it was Tumblr. For me, that's where one of the first places I put my pronouns. It's one of the first places I had my name up. And you know what? Funnily, I did get some like weird anonymous hate when I did. And I wasn't even like, I didn't even really have followers on Tumblr. You know what I mean? I had so few people, and you still attract, you will still attract. I think that's something to be mindful of. But I think that online is a really powerful space. And, I think there's some danger in the way social media has, it gets involved in democracy and such. And so I see its downsides. But I will say for queer people, I think it's important and it like cannot be removed at this point, because I mean, just like every, I learned Judaism from my parent synagogue, and I couldn't learn, and we're not especially religious, but but everything I learned about that I learned from my family. But because I didn't have a queer elder in my family, I had no one to learn that from. So the internet was where I got it, and even Netflix is the internet. You know what I mean? So it is. I think my biggest advice is as safely as you can explore the spaces that exist for you, and reach out to people that you trust, because I think yeah, I really think practicing coming out was like a really good way for me to do it, and I don't know that I would have ever done it otherwise if I hadn't had people. And it's really simple to say that when it went well for you. It's easy for me to say that, and I acknowledge that, and it's just like tough. But I think young people, and I think that's why what the work that like Future Perfect Project is doing for me is really amazing, and like why I was really honestly really excited and honored that you asked me. I was honestly like, oh really, me? Was that because like the nonprofit I worked at in high school was a really good place for me to practice as well. Like I would go there and I went by he, him, and then I would go back to school and be like, I was going by my last name at school because it felt like a safe in between like, my dead name and Zach. And I would go by like, and I was sort of in between pronouns at a certain point, and I was just sort of, or I like wasn't even sure I was comfortable. And I was able to go to this nonprofit and use them there. So that is why the Future Perfect Project and such like that is why I'm always really grateful to get to see stuff like that existing, and especially to be asked to talk. Like I was like, that's just so cool, because that's what helped me. Again, just it was a place for me to practice being me, and it was a place where I was like, if I come out here and then later I decide I want to go by different pronouns, or later I decide I want to go by a different name, like the world will like that is like part of life. That is like, that's okay. And like it is probably something that like I think most people I know go through that journey, or a lot of people go through that journey of trying to figure out what feels comfortable in terms of how they dress, how they're referred to. And so yeah, so I really respect this, and I'm so really grateful that you asked me to be part of it. It's incredibly cool, and I wish that my hometown had more stuff like this. You know what I mean? Like brings me so much joy, because it's just like this should be something that you tune into your Instagram and immediately see. Um, anyway, not to gas you up so much, but
No, I'm so grateful that we lost your sound for a minute there, but I can hear you again now.
But I just want to express my gratitude to you for your time. I think you're one of the most incredible people that I've had the opportunity to work with. I mean, working on the college tapes together was like, again, another experience for me, like a first of having a trans sibling in that sphere, a queer bling. And being able to chat with you tonight was like I think I mentioned to you, just like something I was looking forward to, I was giddy about, and I know you've helped so many people tonight just by being honest, authentic, and yourself. I just think you're such an awesome person, and you always you make a Zoom, you make a Instagram live feel so familiar and so safe. So thank you for continuing to make this space a place where LGBTQ plus teens can express themselves, and feel free to join us in the chats. And I hope that for those of you who are watching, you're able to check out the Future Perfect Project at the Future Perfect Project on Instagram. You can follow our story. You can follow our Instagram online. You can also find all of our programming available in our bio. We have a link tree that'll bring you to all of our different social media handles, but I implore you to sign up for our workshops. Hopefully we'll be able to get Zach into more conversations with our young people. I am just elated that we were able to have this conversation tonight, because I really feel like now of all the times in the world, our voices need to be heard, and I'm so glad we were able to hear your voice.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. This was, yeah, I mean, for what it's worth, the whole thing I was saying at the end was just, I mean, that if you do grow up in, like a town like I did, like having Instagram and popping on and seeing the Future Perfect Project going live, and seeing them talk about like trans representation, and seeing them talk about all these programs that a young person could do. I mean, just really, really grateful and honored that you would ask me to be part of this. This is really, really cool. Very, very cool.
Thank you. And thank you for recapping that.
Yeah.
I was like, what's going on? What's happening?
Yeah.
Is it me? But we made it through. I'm so grateful.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. This was awesome.
Have a wonderful rest of your night.
You as well, yeah.
I'm so looking forward to being able to chat again soon, and seeing how we can have you come hang out with us at the FPP workshops and in our family. It's just so appreciated. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Z.
Have a beautiful rest of your night, Zach.
You too.